You're listening to WRAW-FM 91.1 Cleveland. This is Dr. Metal, and you've tuned into the Metal Meltdown Show. Got an interview with Steve Williams from the UK band PowerQuest. They've been around for about 15 years now or so, and so I'll have that coming up during the show. They have a new EP out called Face the Raven. Lots of new music for you as well, and some old favorites. Taking your requests at 216-368-2208 as well. We're going to kick things off with Camelot, My Therapy. All right, you're listening to the Metal Meltdown Show. This is Dr. Metal. I'll be with you for the next couple of hours here. We got some new music to share with you, of course, and then interview with Steve Williams from the band Power Quest. They've been around for quite a while, and Steve's been a guest on the show, at least 5 or 6 times, I would say, over the years. Always great to talk to him. And Steve was one of the founding members in the band Dragonheart, which, of course, went on to become Dragon Force. And recently relaunched Power Quest after several years hiatus, and put out an EP this fall, and have a new album on the way next year. So we're going to hear all about that, and we'll hear some tracks from the EP, and then go back through Power Quest history a little bit and pull out some old favorites as well. Taking requests at 216-368-2208, so give me a call if there's something you want to hear. And right now, we've got some new music from Gravedigger to share with you. I should let you know, I suppose, that you just heard Dark Tranquility, of course. Sort of unmistakable sound, I think. The new album is called Atoma, one of the highlights of 2016, I think. And that was Clearing Skies, one of my favorite tracks off of that album. And like I said, 216-368-2208 for requests. You can find me on Facebook at Metal Meltdown Show. And brand new Gravedigger here, going out to Larry. Their new album is called Healed by Metal. It'll be one of many releases coming early next year. And I'm going to interview Chris in the coming days, and Chris Boltendahl. We'll have him on the show the next couple of weeks. Always a pleasure to talk to him. German metal legend, of course. And this is the first track off their brand new album, Healed by Metal, the great Gravedigger, here on the Metal Meltdown Show. All right, brand new music from Freedom Call right there. The new album is called Master of Light, and a really great power metal album if that's what you're into. For them, I think very much a return to form, up there with some of their really early, very cheesy releases. So brand new Freedom Call right there. Before that was Sonata Arctica with the Christmas track called Christmas Spirits. That was from a single they put out, I think, last year. Around the holidays, if I remember correctly. They, of course, released a new album in 2016 called The Ninth Hour. And before that was Gravedigger, and you heard Healed by Metal. That was the title track from that album. And that one will come out in 2017, I believe in January. We'll have Chris Boltondahl, the singer of Gravedigger, on the show in the coming weeks. Those guys have been around for a long time. We got a request tonight, 216-368-2208. Is the number to call. As I mentioned, we've got a lot of new music to share with you, so we're going to keep on doing that. Firewind has an album coming out, I think in late January, maybe early February even, on AFM Records here in the States, and it's going to be called Immortals. Firewind features, of course, Gus G on guitars, and he's sort of the main force behind the band, always has been. New singer in the band is Henning Bassa, who is the singer in Metallium, among others, and a longtime friend of the show, and interviewed Gus G this past week, so that's another one that'll be coming up in the next few weeks for you. So always interesting to talk to him. He's got a long history in the scene, with Firewind, but also as Ozzy's guitarist, and also a solo artist now as well. So we're going to play some Firewind for you here. Brand new stuff comes out next year. This is Live and Die by the Sword.
It's my choice to live and to die.
All right, the voice of Andy B. Frank from Brainstorm right there from the album Memorial Roots Rerooted, Remixed and Remastered. That came out this past year. And that was an old release going back several years, but that was remixed, remastered, put out on AFM Records, and that was a song called When No One Cares. Right before that, Brainstorm also had a full-length album in 2016 called Scary Creatures, one of the early releases as well. So a busy year for them. Before that, Firewind. Their new album coming out in about a month's time will be called Immortals. Like I said, Gus G on guitars, of course, and then Henning Bassa on vocals. Dennis Ward from Pink Cream 69 helped to co-write the album, and so pretty good team of people there. Live and Die by the Sword was the song that you heard. And before that, Freedom Call, Hail the Legend off of Master of Light, which is their latest release as well. So playing as much new music as I possibly can for you here. And then coming up in just a little bit, we're going to hear from Steve Williams from the band PowerQuest. PowerQuest, band out of the UK. Steve's been in the scene for quite a while, had taken a hiatus with PowerQuest, actually joined another band called Eden's Curse, and then decided, not too long ago to, get PowerQuest back online again, and went out and got a new singer, Ash Edison, from the UK band Dendera. And put out an EP this year, did some live shows, and they have a pretty busy year planned for 2017. So we're going to hear all about their plans, about the EP that they put out, and Steve and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the better releases of 2016 as well. So that's coming up in just a little bit here on the Metal Meltdown Show. Right now, new music from France, a band called Nightmare. The album is called Dead Sun, a longtime French metal band. They've got a new singer for this album, and we're going to play this song, which is called Red Marble Gold. So brand new Nightmare, and we'll come back in just a bit and hear from Steve Williams from PowerQuest. All right, welcome back to the Metal Meltdown Show. That was Nightmare from France, Red Marble and Gold, from the new album Dead Sun, and that one came out just a little bit ago on AFM Records, one of the last 2016 releases out there. Excellent stuff. They have a new singer. Sounds pretty good from what I've heard so far of it. So we're going to launch into this interview with Steve Williams from PowerQuest. Steve is a keyboard player, keyboardist from PowerQuest, and famously was in Dragon Force before it was Dragon Force. So the band was called Dragonheart at the time. Is one of the founding members, and then after that went on to form PowerQuest. Released several albums over the years, did tours, and then several years ago he decided to call it quits with PowerQuest, and in the last year he decided to come back from that hiatus and record new material, got a new singer, and that's where he is right now. So the new EP is called Face the Raven. It's out as of the last couple of months. They've done some live shows now with the new lineup in support of this, and then next year they're going to be working on a new album, which is what Steve is going to talk to us about here in this very first clip from the interview. So again, Steve Williams from PowerQuest here on the Metal Meltdown Show. And right after this, we'll hear the title track from that EP, Face the Raven. What does the future hold in the next year? Are you guys actively working on a full-length album at this point?
Yeah, very much so. It's, to be honest, my primary focus, Nick. To be fair, there's, I suppose, a little exclusive for you in this, in a sense that we're going to be hitting the studio on April the 24th next year. Now, as it stands, I've written, I think, all bar one song for the album. Very excited about it. The guys are pretty excited. To be fair, most of them haven't seen the whole collection of songs yet, so hence why we're not in the studio until April, as opposed to being, straight after Christmas or some festival type things as well. I've got one that's kind of in the bag, but I can't say anything, so maybe I'll tell you about that one offline.
Nice. Well, so as far as the writing goes, I know Ash obviously, has got Dendera, and I think they may be working on an album as well. Is he involved in the writing process for PQ at this point, or is that something you think that'll, he'll sort of ease into over time.
Yeah, we're kind of breaking him in gently, I suppose. The usual rules apply, I think, even though, to be fair, at the start of the year, I did have what you might kind of refer to as a bit of the old writer's block. Having not really had my PQ hat on for a few years. Trying to almost refine myself, rediscover what I was all about in that department was a bit of a challenge to start with. But like a lot of things in that vein, once the floodgates opened, it all came flooding back with a vengeance, kind of thing. So I'm very, very excited about the new material. I think there's a nice mix of old and new, I think. So that's going to be pretty special. We've also got the little matter of it's the 15th anniversary of the debut album Wings of Forever next year. So we're thinking of one or two little things to try and just celebrate that a little bit and all that kind of thing, So with all that going on, plus the at the moment I'm in the record label discussions and all that kind of side of things as well. So it's a pretty busy time. But, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining.
Yeah. All right. Steve Williams there from the UK-based band PowerQuest, and they do have a new EP out, which is called Face the Raven. I'm going to play that track for you right now, and they're working on a new album. Steve just gave us the date they were going into the studio in April to work on that, so it seems like we will have a brand new PowerQuest album before the year is out next year, so looking forward to that. Here's Face the Raven. We'll come back and hear a lot more from Steve Williams, PowerQuest, here on the Metal Meltdown Show. All right, Power Quest with the title track from their new EP, Face the Raven. This is the Metal Meltdown Show with Dr. Metal. My guest tonight is Steve Williams from Power Quest, and always a pleasure to have Steve on the show. I've known him for a very long time here, and, always great to talk to him about both Power Quest, but also music and metal in general. Really smart guy. So, Face the Raven is the title track from the new EP. They're working on a new album that they're going to go in the studio to record in April. And we've got plenty more here from this interview, but we're going to play another clip here where he's going to talk about the second track on the EP, which is called Coming Home. I believe you heard it here on the show last week. I know I've played that one quite a bit, so he's going to talk a little bit about that, and also the process in terms of writing once again after several years away from Power Quest. I asked him if he listened to the his old catalog to kind of get in the mood and prepare. So Steve Williams from Power Quest here on the Metal Meltdown. But did you prepare yourself in some way for that process by like going back to old material and listening to it, or listening through the whole band's history?
I think there was definitely an element of revisiting the back catalogue. I don't know whether it was for anything more specific than just getting the right vibe again, that kind of thing. Whether there was anything more to it or not, I don't know. But what I found with, I think it was the idea for Coming Home, I think, that was the trigger for everything in the end. I wanted to write a song as we come back into action that was kind of for the fans and all that. So I thought it would be quite a fun thing if we tried to get as many old song titles into the lyrics of that song. So you get the classic PQ kind of Sacred Land type vibe, plus a little bit of something for the old fans, something for them to get all the references out of and all that kind of thing. But the keyboard intro to Coming Home, I think, was one of the catalyst things that it reminded me very much of, the Wings of Forever, Neverworld kind of thing. And that, once that had clicked in, it just seemed to lead from one idea to another and to another, which was, I was struggling to keep up with it at one point, frantically scribbling chord progressions down and all that kind of thing. So I didn't forget it. But yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge to get through, but I think it's coming out okay. I hope so anyway.
Yeah, I've told you, but I love that song. I think it fits in perfectly with your back catalog, and as a longtime fan, I was so pleased to hear that song. I like Face the Raven, but Coming Home to me is, one of the better songs that I think you've written over the years.
Yeah, I think the melodic aspect of it was something that struck me as well as we were putting it together, if you like. And I think the other thing we tried to do, hence the kind of quiet start to the song, if you like, having had Ash come steaming in with that kind of Rob Halford type scream at the start of Face the Raven, I thought it would be cool to kind of almost have the opposite end of his spectrum at the start of the next song. So it gave a quick view or an overview of, what that lad's going to be, what he is capable of and what he's going to be capable of, All right, Steve Williams from Power Quest talking about the new song Coming Home off of their latest release, which is an EP called Face the Raven. Also talking about the new singer in the band, Ash Edison. Is also in another band from the UK called Dendera. And we're going to play another clip from the interview here. Steve mentioned at the top of the interview that next year is going to mark the 15th anniversary of the debut album, Wings of Forever. And he mentioned, doing something potentially special for that. So, he's going to talk about the possibility of, playing the album from start to finish live or something along those lines to commemorate that 15th anniversary. Yeah, I think that's definitely up for consideration. I've been revisiting that album particularly kind of closely, if you like, over the past few weeks, and I'd forgotten some of the really cool moments on there, if you like, some of the just a little 2 or 3 note flurry and a solo here and there, and that kind of little detail. I thought, yeah, it would be fun to. Well, there's some songs, must be 3 or 4 on that album that have never been played live anyway, and God knows why, really. You know, when you really revisit something and closely, you think, well, yeah, we could have been doing this for a few years or all this time, you know. But no, I think we'll definitely be in some shows. I think bringing in a couple of old songs from that record, maybe not necessarily the obvious ones, and we'll certainly look at the whole album situation as well. You know, if somebody wants us to come and do that, then yeah, we'll be right up for it.
All right, Steve Williams from PowerQuest, and he's talking about the album Wings of Forever, classic, old school, PowerQuest release. Came out originally in 2002, so in 2017, that'll be 15 years, of course. It has on it my very favorite of all time PowerQuest song, and really, if you're looking for cheesy power metal, and I mean that as a compliment, you really can't do any better than the song Far Away. So we're going to play that for you right now, since Steve was just talking about Wings of Forever. And then we'll come back and hear some more from Steve Williams of the band PowerQuest. You are listening to the Metal Meltdown Show. I'm Dr. Metal. And we're just about halfway through the show here on WREW-FM 91.1 Cleveland. Stick with me for another hour. More interview with Steve Williams of PowerQuest, more new music, and taking your requests here at 216-368-2208. So once again, this is Far Away from PowerQuest, from the album Wings of Forever. So stay tuned. If you haven't heard this song before, prepare to really be blown away. This is great stuff here. Far Away from PowerQuest.
Far away in a bygone age, round the stories how well true. Legends told by the men on have brought us here today. Tell us a secret buried in time.
All right, Wings of Forever, the very first PowerQuest album released back in 2002, coming up on its 15th anniversary, and that was Far Away. You're going to hear some more from Steve Williams from PowerQuest right now here on the Metal Meltdown Show. We're at the halfway mark in the program. I want to remind you as well that if you're looking for more metal during the week, you can always tune in from 3 to 6 a.m. on Tuesdays to the Metal Meltdown overnight. That's another 3 hours that I program every week. And of course, if you're not up at that hour, you can always go to our website, wrew.org, and you can stream the archived shows. We keep everything up there for a week, and so you can always grab that after the fact if you'd like. So we're going to go back to this interview with Steve Williams. He mentioned they're going to be recording a new album in April. Asked him about how things were going as far as finding a record label and getting all that side of things worked out, because the EP was self-released. They're doing it, individually, and he's mailing out copies himself and everything. But he is working on getting a label for the next album. So he's going to tell us a little bit about what to expect there.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there, I think, on all aspects of that. Basically, it's a draft paperwork stage and all that kind of business. So we're not too far away from having that closed off. I'm really happy to be working with the two companies we're going to be working with. I like working with people like me, nice guys, but tough and, business-like. That's the way I like to do things. And both these parties are right up my alley in that regard. In terms of the landscape, obviously it's a world of difference from when we started. Never mind from many years ago. You're not in the business of getting huge advances from companies to make albums, as you know. So we have to look at alternative kind of routes and so on and so forth. So there's one thing I'm going to be previewing in the probably next week or so with one of my video updates, is a couple of the, I suppose you call them crowdfunding ideas that we've got, that we hope the guys around the world, it's open to everybody, will jump on board with. And again, I'll be announcing two of these later in the week, but I'll Nick, I'll give you a preview offline later.
Nice.
The idea being that those things are certainly the first two. I've deliberately tried to put a couple of packages together that are pretty much unique things, and they won't be repeated things either. So it's a kind of one time only for X amount of people, and so on and so forth.
All right, Steve Williams from PowerQuest talking about plans for the upcoming release in terms of record deal, and then doing some crowdfunding for it as well. So I want to play another clip from this interview with Steve. I asked him, what it's been like to relaunch the band and go out there and play live once again. They did their very first show, I believe, back in September. After this long hiatus, and to kick off the new lineup and everything. And so he'll talk to us a little bit about the fan reaction to that show and just to them being back. So once again, Steve Williams here on the Metal Meltdown Show.
I think, it's been staggering in many ways. When you come back to anything in life, you hope that you're going to be received well. But as I said to the guys before the announcement, I said you can't expect necessarily to just leap back straight where you started. You've got to kind of earn your spurs a little bit again, and so on and so forth. So that was the idea, really, of having the 3 live shows, as it turned out. It was only supposed to be 2. Around the time of that was the EP launch, the same weekend as the shows. And I wanted to, anybody could just release a new product or a new album, whatever it is, and go, yeah, we're back. But for me, it seemed almost more important to make a return to the live stage as well. And if we could do the two simultaneously, all the better. But I think the show in London, even now looking back on it, to be honest, it's surprised the hell out of me. Not only the way the band played. You know, the band were great, and the guest appearances we had is cool. We had Andrea Martangeli joined us for a few songs. Alessio was there as well, so it was the whole kind of PQ family thing at work again, as they did to come to that show. You know, we had people who'd come over from Japan, a couple of kids from USA, bunch of guys from Sweden had come over. They were hilarious. Come over, started drinking, went to the show, carried on drinking, went back to the airport and flew home. No hotel, no nothing like that. Wow. Absolutely brilliant guys. And from all over Europe as well. You know, it was unbelievable, and by far and away the best crowd, not only in terms of numbers, but in terms of kind of reaction and engagement as well. You know, it was utterly ridiculous.
And then a little bit more on fan reaction to PowerQuest relaunching, in this past year.
All in all, it's exceeded my expectations. You know, I always knew the band, certainly in its old guise, was exceptional. You know, on the live front, but I think Ash and Dan coming into the band and putting those guys together with the old stalwarts, Gav, Paul, and Rich, and I'll tell you what, it sounded quite lethal. You know, it was really on point, sharp, precise, but without being too rigid with it. You know, and I think we're in that luxurious position now. I think where we've got great musicians in the band who just enjoy playing it all. There's no worrying about it. There's no, what comes next. It's all just, I'm having a really good time here. I'm having the time of my life. And that's what I think is translating so well to the fans. The guys all look like they're enjoying themselves, and I suppose from Ash's point of view, I think he's been an instant hit with the old fans, that's for sure. And he's brought a real presence to the front of the stage. You know, we've always had great singers, I think, but maybe not always great frontmen. But some of his on-stage banter is, you know, really quite amusing at times. And so it's all good, I think, Nick.
All right, Steve Williams from PowerQuest. The new EP is called Face the Raven. New album on the way next year. We want to go back into the band's history here and play another old favorite for you right now. This is Sacred Land from Neverworld, going back to 2003, I believe. And we'll come back and hear more from Steve Williams of PowerQuest in just a bit here on the Metal Meltdown Show.
Name was all turned around.
right, Power Quest history there. Sacred Land from Neverworld, one of their older albums, I think second release, 2003, if I have that correct. And you're listening to, a lot of Power Quest here because we have an interview with Steve Williams from Power Quest. The new EP is called Face the Raven. It is out now, and first new music from them in quite some time. They have a new lineup, new singer, and there's going to be a new album on the way in the new year. They're going to go into the studio and record in April, which Steve told us a bit about earlier. So we're going to play a few more clips from this interview. So we're going to go back to this here, and right here he's going to talk about the future of the band as far as touring goes. And many of the artists that I talk to, you guys hear them talking about what it's like out there in terms of bands trying to break even on these tours, hopefully make even a little bit of money. And it's not easy either when it comes to the touring scene, especially for bands from Europe going around, or also certainly when it comes to album sales. But Steve will talk a little bit about the touring possibilities for Power Quest in the new year, the new album.
Well, I think that's the age-old problem, isn't it, in a sense? And in a way, it's arguably more a problem now, more difficult for bands like us who are, in real terms, the weekend warriors, I suppose. But because of the, downturn in the industry in terms of record sales and all that kind of thing, we've seen a massive upturn in the number of bands out on tour. So you look at, take our city here, for example, we used to get 1 or 2 metal shows a year 10 years ago. Now there's new venues opened up that I haven't even been to yet. There's 2 or 3 bands, whether it's Evergrey, Delane, people like that, who had probably never even heard of Southampton before, and all these bands are pouring through week after week. So that makes it very hard for us in a sense. The way I like to operate 6 months in advance, really, get shows booked, and get the promotion going. But you don't know that, for example, you've booked yourself a headline show in Southampton on October the 20th. And then 3 months later, Anthrax announced they're doing the same thing. And you just got that horrible, I'm going to get gazumped at any or every turn,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's a major difficulty. I am looking at a couple of touring possibilities already, and already I'm getting scared by the numbers involved and all that kind of things. But I understand, it's one of those things where the promoters don't want to take too much of a risk. I've been talking about a tour in Europe, and it was just one of those ones that I could see before we even got to the start point of the tour, we'd be in the red. And you think, well, once you start off like that, it's only ever going to go one way. And yeah, options like that are just not options.
All right, Steve Williams from Power Quest talking about possibility of them going out on the road in the new year. And here I went back to ask him about how he writes music. He talked a bit about the process for the EP and the album, but asked him about where these songs start, how they develop. So a little bit on songwriting from Steve Williams of Power Quest here. Does everything always start with the keyboard for you, or do you also play around on the guitar and composing things?
Well, that's quite an interesting question, pretty relevant actually with the way the writing's been going this time round. I think in the past, the answer would be, yeah, there's always a keyboard involved, pretty much everywhere from the start. But this time it's been, a slightly different experience in a way. Face the Ravens, again, is a prime example of that. I was noodling around on the guitar one day. I just got this Dave Mustaine thing from the nice guys at Bill Lewington Guitars, who are the Dean distributors in the UK. So I got this lovely guitar to muck around with. And I just happened to fall on what turned out to be the opening riff to Face the Raven. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, isn't it? Keyboard player coming up with a good guitar riff there. This is all right. And sort of jamming around, and then got the second riff. So, well, that's kind of cool. Again, mucking around, similar to what I do on the keyboard, to be honest, just trying things out, seeing where I go. And before I knew it, I'd got right up to the end of the first verse. I was thinking, right, this is turning out right. Anyway, cut a long story short, I took this along to the guys. And bear in mind, when you've got guitar players like we've got, it's always a bit weird when you say, look, I've written this thing on the guitar. And they look at you and go, yeah, of course you have. Don't be silly, keep to the keyboards. But in this instance, they were just like, that's a really cool riff. How does it go?
All right, Steve Williams of PowerQuest there, talking about songwriting a little bit, and we're going to play some more PowerQuest for you, and going back to some of their earlier releases. I was just talking to somebody on the phone about this one moments ago. The album Master of Illusion came out in 2008, I believe on Napalm Records, if I remember correctly, and really great album. From start to finish from these guys. A lot of great, solid songs on here, strong songs. We're going to play Save the World for you right now, though. So PowerQuest, Save the World. We'll come back. We'll hear some more from Steve. He's going to share his thoughts on 2016 as far as some metal releases that have come out. Some of these musicians you talk to, they'll say things like, oh, I don't listen to current albums, or, I'm so burned out on metal, I don't listen to anything. And that answer gets old. It's pretty boring to talk to people who, can't talk about what's going on in the music scene aside from their own music. But Steve, what I've always liked about him over the years is that he keeps up with pretty much everything that comes out, it seems, and always has an opinion on it, whether it's a favorable one or not. So we're going to hear his thoughts about some of the albums that have come out. We're just a couple of weeks away from top 25 albums. Excited to put that together for you. So PowerQuest here on the Metal Meltdown. All right, Power Quest with Save the World from Master of Illusion. Such a great track there. Steve Williams from Power Quest has been my guest on the show tonight. We've got a few more clips to play. And as I mentioned, Steve always, forthcoming with his thoughts on various albums of the day. And so, I asked him, looking back, what he thought some of the standout albums have been for him for 2016. So he's going to talk about, 3 or 4 albums here coming up. So Steve Williams on albums from 2016.
Yeah, there have been a few, I think, this year. I think maybe past couple of years, perhaps not so much. But yeah, as you say, we've talked about Theocracy and Ghost Ship, and yeah, cracking album. Yeah, almost. I suppose I'll summarise my compliments by saying it's kind of reignited my faith in that sort of music. The kind of Ed Guy type thing, that they've got going on with the riffs and that kind of thing. And I just thought it was a really, really good record, in every single aspect. Really enjoy it. But other than that, there've been a couple of others that I've really been quite partial to, I suppose. The new Evergrey record, I thought that was stunning. I'd not kept up with them for a few years, to be honest, but I'd noticed a friend of mine on Facebook had heard a pre-release copy or something, and I wouldn't shut up about it. I thought, I better give this a go, and absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's been in the car for weeks on end, which is always a sign of approval in itself, I think. But I just love the atmospherics, the natural kind of melancholy aspect that they always have. But I think the songwriting was just, top draw, absolutely top draw. Really, really enjoyed listening, and still do. I don't think it's going to bore me anytime soon, that album.
All right, so Steve Williams sharing his thoughts on some of the albums from this past year: Theocracy, Ghost Ship. We had an interview with Matt Smith not too long ago on the program. He also mentioned Evergrey as well, releasing a new album in 2016. He's got a couple more albums that he mentioned. We'll come back. We'll hear his thoughts. I do want to continue this journey back through Power Quest's catalog here. Go with Blood Alliance, which was released in 2011. Their last, full-length studio release before they went on hiatus, and then relaunched things this past year with an EP, which we'll close out the show with. But we'll go back to Blood Alliance here, and this is Rising Anew. So Power Quest for you on the Metal Meltdown. All right, Rising Anew, going up by request there. And that was from the album Blood Alliance from Power Quest, of course, their last studio release from 2011. Got two more clips to play from this interview with Steve Williams. And like I said, he's kind enough to share his thoughts about some of the albums that came out in 2016. It's always a nice thing about interviewing people towards the end of the year. And, he already mentioned a few albums, and he's got a couple more right here. So again, Steve Williams from Power Quest.
I thought the new Hammerfall album was okay. It's actually grown on me. I wasn't that keen at all to start with, but I think once I'd listened a couple of times, this is more like the Hammerfall that I got into, rather than what Hammerfall had been probably for the last few albums, in my opinion. It took me back a little bit to Legacy of Kings and that kind of stuff, which was the kind of period I really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, well, Legacy of Kings and Glory to the Brave, I mean, those two albums, have held time, and, I can't say that I necessarily go back to the other albums all that frequently, certainly, compared to those two.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, and I think that kind of highlights the point, I suppose, doesn't it? In that sense, I was trying to think on a slightly heavier end of the spectrum. I thought the New Testament album was particularly good. In a time where people won't shut up about Metallica and so on and so forth. You can listen to that. I'm going to listen to this Brotherhood of the Snake thing. It's much more my cup of tea, I think. And I think, to be fair to Testament, I really enjoyed the last few records, to be honest. I think Formation of Damnation was great as well. But I just love the way they still sound, vibrant and on it, for want of a better phrase. It just really, really, really cool.
No, I think the production on their albums, this one and Dark Roots of the Earth in particular, fantastic. I mean, got a nice, loud, clean, crisp sound to them.
Oh yeah, it's important, I think, for that style of music particularly, that it does kind of reach out of your speaker system and punch you in the face. It needs to do that straight away for me, with an album of that style. But no, I've really enjoyed listening to that one as well. I think it's really cool, and like the concept behind a few of the songs as well.
All right, Steve Williams giving his thoughts on a couple of more of the 2016 releases there, the new Hammerfall and Testament. And we're going to close things out here with Steve talking about Sonata Arctica. I asked him about them because they were one of the bands that released an album. And like I said, Steve has been great over the years, from not shying away from giving his opinion. He doesn't lay into people unnecessarily or anything like that. You can hear that. He's a very fair minded person, I think. But it's refreshing to talk to somebody who's willing to to say something that isn't necessarily it's not necessarily going to get him anywhere as far as, complimenting somebody just for the sake of complimenting somebody. So, here's him talking about Sonata Arctica, the Ninth Hour, which is, one of the new releases this year. What about Sonata Arctica?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that one. Puts his politically correct hat on.
So do you fall into the camp of people who, sort of prefer that early style of Sonata Arctica, the first couple of albums in particular, before, they started to get a little more experimental and branching out?
I suppose so. In all honesty, I think, albums like Silence, for example, that was a cracker. I loved that whole period, if you like. But that's not to say I haven't liked songs since. I just haven't liked albums probably since, maybe Winter Hearts Guild. There's just been too much, and I like variety, but just too much oddball variety at times that just didn't click with me for whatever reason. But even then, I remember looking, not the album that's just come out, the Ninth Hour, the previous one, I can't remember the title. Prize Child, was it? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that was the one right before.
Yeah. Now that one was an odd one because I remember I had it in the car and first play and all that kind of thing, and it nearly went out the window, if I'm honest. I was like, what is this? What is this? And my good lady, she said, "Whoa, hold on a minute, give it a few more spins before you bring down the kind of Williams hammer of doom on it, and that's the end of it forever," kind of thing. But that album, there were 2, 3, 4 songs on it that, after a while, suddenly did click with me. So we could be looking at a situation of me not being patient enough.
Today to do the interview with me, always a pleasure to talk to him. And of course, PowerQuest has a new EP out. It's called Face the Raven. It's got 3 tracks, 2 new ones, and then a re-recorded version of Blood Alliance, the title track from that 2011 release. We're going to leave off this segment with thanks, Steve, for joining us today. Always a pleasure to hear from him on the program. So some brand new PowerQuest for you right now.
A place where magic can die, killing the dreamers, hate in their eyes. I only hope I live till tomorrow. 1,000 days and nights and all the time on my own, knowing that I must journey home, back to the sacred land of my fathers. I know I cannot be the savior of the world, but I'll do anything that I can to be
Health insurance is now affordable and covers prescriptions, hospitalizations, maternity care, preventative care, and more. Visit getcoveredamerica.org.
All right, that's just about going to do it for the Metal Meltdown show. Humanize Me from Pretty Maids, the new album, is out now on Frontier's request. Once again, I want to thank Steve Williams for joining me this week. In the coming weeks, we'll hear from Chris Boltendahl from Gravedigger, Gus G. from Firewind, among others. So lots of good interviews lined up. Of course, if you're looking for more metal, Tuesday morning, 3 to 6 a.m., Metal Meltdown overnight. You can go to WREW.org if you missed last night's show and you want to stream it. We're going to end with some Finnish Christmas music. Raskasta Jula from the first album, and this is Tulkun Jula. Lots of big names in Finnish heavy metal in here. I'm sure you'll recognize some of the voices. Thanks for tuning in this week. Until next time, this is Dr. Metal saying stay metal, stay cool.
Niityllä lunta. Hiljaiset kadut, taakse jo jäänyt, on syksyn lohduttomuus.
Muistojen virta, lapsuuden sadut, sanoma joulun on uusi mahdollisuus. Joulu on taas, riemuitkaa nyt, lapsi on meillä.
Tulkoon toivo kansoilemaan, pääskön vangit vankiloistaan. Uskon siemen nouskoon pintaan, olkoon rauha loppumaton.
Joulu on taas, kulkuset soi, jossakin äiti lasta seineen kapaloi.
Tulkoon juhla todellinen, tulkoon Jeesus Herraksi sen. Tulkoon rakkaus ihmisrintaan, silloin joulun luonamme on.
Tahtoisin päästä paimenten mukaan, unohtaa kiireen ja melun rasittavan. Aamu kun koitti, tiesikö kukaan? Tuo yksi joulu sai muuttaa historiaa.
Joulu on taas, riemuitkaa nyt, lapsi on meille tänä yönä syntynyt.
Tulkoon toivo kansoilemaan, pääskön vangit vankiloistaan.
Uskon siemen nouskoon pintaan, olkoon rauha ikuisen joulun, jos tahdot löytää.
Alrighty, good evening. It is top of the 9 o'clock hour. You are listening to WRUW-FM 91.1 Cleveland, Ohio. We're broadcasting from the Cold campus and the Cold studios here on Case Western Reserve University's campus. This is Voices and Choices. We are a weekly pro-choice public affairs program dedicated to sharing news and perspectives on gender, race, sexuality, arts, culture, and social justice. We believe in the importance of public awareness and conversation about these issues. We aim to foster a forum for discussion where we can raise voices and perspectives that are otherwise not heard and encourage action that will generate change. To that extent, I would like to again thank Donna Sarah, who gave us a good solid hour of her time last week and brought us up to date on the spirit of in North Dakota and the movement and the people and all the awesome things that are going on to protect our water sources for the folks at Standing Rock and all the other areas in the Dakotas. So here in Cleveland, we're going to also be celebrating the spirit of Standing Rock when the Beachland Ballroom hosts the event this Sunday. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. I'm going to start us out with Cleveland composer Tad Dameron. And this is a Cleveland ensemble called the Jazz Heritage Orchestra under the leadership of Dennis Bradley Reynolds. And we got a lot of Cleveland cats on here. Jackie Warren is going to be on piano. And who else is from Cleveland? Bobby Salvaggio on saxophones, Mark Maudlin and Chris Anderson on trombones, and Sean Jones, Frez Whitted, Brad Good, all those great cats on trumpet. And this is Cleveland Tad Dameron's Hot House.